August 8th, 2023 regular meeting and work session of the Pinehurst Village Council. If you are in the room and wish to speak to the Village Council at the end of our regular meeting under public comments, there is a sign-up sheet in the rear of the room. As we approach that time, the clerk will bring that sign-up sheet to me and I'll call on anyone who is signed up. If you're watching this meeting and wish to make a comment, you may send that by email to the address publiccomments@vopnc.org. That's publiccomments@vopnc.org. Those will be received by the clerk and distributed to the Village Council and appropriate staff in the next day. So 2 ways to communicate to us, whether you're here or watching this live meeting. With that, having called the meeting to order, I'll go to agenda item number 2, which is reports from the village manager and members of the Village Council. And Jeff Sanborn, will you please make your report?
All right, thank you, John. 3 things I'd like to talk about tonight. The first is, I think everybody's aware that we have a council vacancy, and council is accepting applications through this Friday, this coming Friday, for folks that are interested in serving out the remainder of that open seat to the end of this term, which is the end of November. We do have 4 applications in now. Certainly would be good to have more quality folks to consider. So anybody that's interested, please contact Kelly Chance for a copy of the application, and we'll get that moving for you. The second item is, this is the time of year when we do our community survey and our business survey. And we're getting feedback from ETC Institute that we're doing real well with regard to responses on our community survey. I think by this time, likely we're going to hear that by this time we probably already have met the 700 response threshold that we're looking for on our community survey, but we're kind of lagging on our business survey. So if there are any business owners out there listening, I'd ask you to if you got one of those survey requests, please help us out and let us know what you're thinking, because we do care. And then the third thing is we're saying goodbye to Kelly Chance. Kelly has done a fantastic job here as the village clerk for a couple of years, and she decided to answer a higher calling. She's going to go on to teach history at Pinecrest High School, and we're sure going to miss her, but we know that she's going to do a bang-up job there as well, and a real service to our community and to our kids. And so we wish you the best, Kelly. And I guess I'd like to ask everybody to give her a round of applause. That concludes my report, John.
Thank you, Jeff. And Kelly, on behalf of all the council and certainly myself, we do thank you for your work, and know that what you're doing is so important to our community and our state and our country. So being involved in the teaching profession, and certainly with the teaching of history, is something that's extraordinarily important to the success of people as good citizens and those who will participate in government going forward. So thank you for taking a leadership in that position. We look forward to comments from you from time to time. Maybe bring some of the students in, and we'll go over a meeting with them someday. Thank you very much for your time. Moving on into my reports from the social point of view, social and sports point of view, I would just say I enjoyed, as I think almost all of us did, U.S. Kids Golf being here again in the last couple of weeks. It's so overwhelming in many ways, both in terms of numbers, but also in terms of importance to those folks who have come from all over the country, all over the world, to play golf in the home of American golf, Village of Pinehurst. So it is a wonderful event, and I'm so proud that they make this their home. On the 27th of July, I attended, along with other members of the council, the final, I'll call it open house and input session for the Parks and Recreation Master Plan, which we're going to hear about in detail tonight in the work session. That'll be quite an interesting and detailed report. I recommend it all to you. And then finally, yesterday I was asked to speak at the annual meeting of the National Institute for Minority Economic Development, which holds their meeting here almost every year in Pinehurst. It's headquartered in Raleigh, and they have members from this country and all around the world, particularly women and minorities interested in business or who have businesses, or those who are looking to invest in business. I gave a 2.5 to 3 minute quick review of Pinehurst and some of the ways that our community had reimagined itself over many years, which was one of the themes of the economic conference this year, how to reimagine a business, how to change things as you go forward. And delighted to have them again in the village of Pinehurst. That concludes my reports. Start with Jeff Morgan.
Thank you. I'd like to reiterate to Kelly on that we're going to miss you. Did a great job, and big loss to our community, but a great gain for our kids in learning history. So thank you. I too was at the parade for the kids golf, and I thought it was phenomenal. If y'all didn't get to that parade, I encourage you to go next time. Seeing, I don't know exactly how many kids, but a whole lot of them representing all these different countries was phenomenal. Maybe we can get rid of the vehicles and in that portion that they do the parade to make a little bit more room for them, but do that next time. But it was phenomenal. I did have a chance to get some information on a family that was leaving out, a family of 4 that was staying in the village, and they tallied up all their receipts, and they ended up spending right around $4,000 for the time that they were here. And there were a lot of families here. So that's a tremendous economic input that goes into our community. And the kids had a phenomenal time. Being able to sit down and chat with them and talk with them, of course, made me a little jealous as I'm talking to a 12-year-old who's a scratch golfer. But it was a great time, and I think it's a wonderful testament to our village and us being able to host that and bring in other phenomenal type organizations to partake in our beautiful village. That's all I've got. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Lydia?
Thank you, John. Also, I want to say about Kelly, on the weekends, I'm hesitant to send her an email because within 5 minutes on a weekend, she will send me a reply. So that's how hard Kelly Chance works. Thank you guys for bringing up U.S. Kids Golf. The parade was incredible, but also if you went out on Village Green afterwards and saw those kids from all those countries, it was packed, and they were having a great time. And 82nd Airborne Chorus did a performance, and of course, everybody loved that. And Jeff, as to the money they spend right now, U.S. Kids Golf is they think it's a $14 million economic impact. So that other numbers are going to come out later. I have some new topics. I went down to Jackson Hamlet on Saturday, July 29th for their community day, and it was very well represented by their residents. They had tents, they had food, they had kids activities, so that was great. And then they asked me to go a week later to their neighborhood association meeting just to sit in for a little while, but they also had a lot of participation of their residents in that meeting, so that was good to see. There were representatives there from the Southern Coalition for Social Justice, and they are doing an oral history biography, and they're trying to get residents from Jackson Hamlet to do this oral history so that we have a better picture of the community and its history and the residents who live there. And let me see what else. Councilmember Pizzella and Morgan, we went to the ribbon cutting of Sandhills Boys and Girls Club out at Sandhills Community College. And that's just another organization where you look at the volunteer effort from this community and the impact it's having on this community, especially with our kids. So that was great. And I think that's all I've got. Thank you.
Thank you, Lydia. Patrick?
Yes, thanks. Along the lines of the U.S. Kids, that, of course, all that money they're spending will mean we'll have more money coming into the coffers of our village government, and that's a good sign. Secondly, I want to point out that the email that comes out from Ms. Bumgardner alerting people about road closures and so forth is very helpful. And for those of you who are not on the email list, I encourage you to get on it. It will save you some time. It tells you when the road is closed and when it opens again. You can go to our website and get right on it. I also attended the Jackson Hamlet Community Day, and was impressed with the turnout, and had my blood pressure taken by First Health. They had a tent there. I'll tell you that. So kudos to First Health. Yesterday, I attended the beautification committee. It was chaired by Dee Johnson, because the regular chair was recuperating from some shoulder surgery. Dr. Morgan, just letting you know that. I don't think it was one of your patients. Okay. And once again, the beautification committee did a terrific job of going into enormous detail on the plantings in this village and tracing things back to the history of Frederick Law Olmsted. So kudos to that committee, and citizens who have an interest should think about applying. As if you're into horticulture, these folks really know what they're doing. Lastly, I wanted to point out that I read it in the paper about the Pinehurst Lieutenant Jason Calder, who completed a management program that is quite an accomplishment, and it increases the knowledge and abilities of those on the front line here in the village of Pinehurst, protecting and serving us to be one of the safest communities within the state of North Carolina. So thank you, and congratulations to Lieutenant Calder. Thank you.
Thank you, Pat. We'll move on to agenda item number 3, which is a motion to approve the consent agenda. However, are there any questions or comments about the consent agenda minutes that we need to discuss? Seeing none, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I move to approve all the items listed and considered routine on the consent agenda.
That's a motion by Councilmember Morgan. Is there a second, please?
Second.
Second by Pat Bozzella. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries. We'll move on to item number 4. Jeff, do you want to introduce these appointments we have tonight, please?
Sure.
Thank you.
Thanks, John. We have 4 appointments for council to consider tonight. The first is the final spot that we'll be filling for the Neighborhood Advisory Committee. There is one available spot still out there, but that's for Pinehurst South, where there are really very few residences currently. But we have Tom Brereton here from Pinewild. And Tom, if you'd like to join us at one of the microphones, the council may want to have a conversation with you. But we're thrilled to have Tom here to recommend for appointment to that position on the Neighborhood Advisory Committee. We only had one applicant for Pinewild, but the good news is Tom was the selection and designee from the Pinewild Property Owners Association. So we got the right guy.
Thank you, Jeff.
So with that, if the council has any questions, it's a great opportunity.
I'll sort of pick up from Jeff's comments that, well, thank you now for what we know will be excellent service and work with the Neighborhood Advisory Committee. And certainly there's already 2 members from Pinewild on the Village Council, and the representatives that have preceded you from Pinewild to the Neighborhood Advisory Committee have been excellent folks and really kept us well up to date on what's going on and making ideas and working with the Advisory Council and the Village Council over time. So in advance of what I'm sure will be a wonderful experience for you and the rest of us, thank you for being able to serve. Are there any comments that you might have or questions of council tonight on the Neighborhood Advisory Committee? I think you attended a meeting or 2, did you not, at some point in the past?
No, I did not, John. But very much looking forward to the opportunity, and there is so much that's going on that's so wonderful in this community, and that I could be a small part of it is exciting to me. So looking forward to it, and thank you very much for the welcome.
It's a dynamic committee, and the efforts we've made over the past few months to increase the coverage to parts of the village that were not like Pinewild included, but before, will make it even a more effective committee going forward.
Yeah, as you know, there's Phase 5 development at Pinewild that's on the table, and looking forward to being a part of that process as well, and doing what's best for Pinewild and the community, larger community. So.
Good. Other questions of Tom, whom we know? All right. Tom,
No question, just a comment. I've known Tom for a while and seen his heart for service. And so thank you for extending your heart for service into this role.
Thank you, Lydia.
Is there a motion to approve?
I have a question or two. Tom, how long have you lived in Pine Wild and Pinehurst?
This is year 10.
And can you tell us a little bit about your background, for those of us who aren't familiar with you?
Very, very briefly, grew up in upstate New York and was educated there. And then after completing a master's degree at the Colgate, went to Dayton, Ohio to begin a teaching career at the Miami Valley School. And that was the beginning of a 32-year relationship with that very fine institution. And from there, went on to head a school in Atlanta. And from there, worked at the Duke School in Durham. And when the opening at Episcopal Day School in Southern Pines was available, I applied and had the good fortune of being selected and had 6 years as its head. And that was the closure of my career in independent education. So it's been fun. Love living here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Is there a motion for this nomination?
I move to approve Resolution 2337, reappoint, no, that's Paul Sale, never mind.
Right, try the
I
next-
move to
try the
approve
one.
Resolution 2331, appointment of Tom Brereton as representative of the Pinewell area on the Pinehurst Neighborhood Advisory Committee.
That's a motion by Lydia Bosch. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Pat Pizzella. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Tom, congratulations.
Thank you.
See you in September.
Forward to it.
Jeff?
All right, next up, we've got Paul Sale. Paul Sale is our nomination for reappointment to the Bike and Pedestrian Advisory Committee. Paul has served on the BPAC for quite a number of years, knows a lot about the goings-on in our plans, and in that regard, I think is a great continuity move for us to reappoint. So,
Paul,
Happened to be
welcome to you.
another one of the Pinewile contingent.
You live in Pinewell as well, is that correct? My goodness.
Hopefully you won't hold that against me.
Would you like to tell us a bit about the parts of the committee that you've been most involved in over the last few years,
I
Paul?
think that the bike and greenways work is essential. I think that we would just like a bigger budget, obviously. But I think there's a group of dedicated people who sit around the table regularly under the management of Mark, who's done a great job, and Tom and Lydia. And I think that we've progressed. We've figured out some good ways to spend the money. Insofar as we never want to create a path by itself. Everything's got to connect to another part of the ecosystem. And we believe it's sort of mission critical for the future of Pinehurst to have some sort of greenways and bike paths. We'd just like more of them.
More of them, in which case would you say we need? Bike, greenways, golf cart directions?
Both. I'm a little bit passionate towards cycling, so I'd
Okay.
like more availability for cyclists. It's getting more and more challenging, as Lydia will know, to ride a bike in the area. Traffic is becoming more congested than it ever used to be, and regrettably, people aren't as patient as they perhaps used to be. So, that's just nature of the beast wherever you are in the United States.
Thank you for those comments. Other questions of Paul on this appointment?
Not so much a
Reappointment?
question,
Jeff?
but a statement here, and just I appreciate your passion for that. In my experience, both as a surgeon and serving in the military, I found that whenever you've got pedestrians around vehicles and you have bicycles around vehicles, you end up having injuries. And so trying to separate them out and have our own ecosystem is critical. And so I appreciate your passion in doing that, not only for the exercise, but just for the safety of our residents and visitors.
Thank you.
The
Need anything about my background, or?
If you'd like, please.
Oh, okay. I spent my career basically in business. I started off my life with Federated Macy's, then became a vice president with Fidelity Investments, where I spent 10 years. And then I finished off the remaining years with Cisco. Cisco Systems Technology Company. I was head of HR for all of the locations outside of California. and also on their global customer service business. I was on the management team for that, and a host of other things. But I now work on a project-by-project basis for a major consulting company. Just project by project, I'm trying to ease my way out to have more time to focus on these passions such as cycling.
Ease your way out of that and increase your time on the bicycle.
It's the goal.
Good, good. Other questions for Paul?
I guess comments, have you heard of the multimodal transportation plan?
I've
we-
heard a little bit about it.
Well, that's
but
what we hope to be doing within the next, is it in the budget for this coming year? Yeah.
Yes.
So that, and that's bicycle, everything. Also, a little tidbit about Paul, he just built a home in Pine Wild that his son is an architect, and the son designed the home to, why don't you tell the rest of that story?
He was trying to make it look like it belonged in Pinehurst.
It was a very traditional Pinehurst home. And also, I want to thank you. You have been a very strong member of BPAC. You come with good ideas, good insight, and you've been an asset. So thank you for being willing to do it again.
Thank you, and hopefully that will continue, and I won't disappoint folks. Thank you.
Possible.
Okay.
Any other questions? Is there a motion on this appointment?
I move to approve Resolution 2337, reappointment of Paul Sale to the Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee for an additional 2-year term effective September 1, 2023, and it expiring August 31st, 2025.
It's a motion by Lydia Bosch. Is there a second?
Second.
A second by Pat Pizzella. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Paul, thank you very much again. Go forth with good work. Jeff?
Okay, thanks, John. Next up is another reappointment. Have the opportunity to recommend Richard Vincent for reappointment to the HPC. We were expecting Richard to be here tonight. I learned right before the meeting started that he and his family are ill today. So we can follow through with this. I know everybody knows Richard, probably pretty comfortable with him, or we could reschedule if you'd prefer to do that.
From my point of view, I think we ought to deal with the reappointment tonight.
I'm very comfortable with that also.
Yeah. All right.
I'll move the resolution.
Why don't you go, please?
Yeah, I move to approve Resolution 23-38, the reappointment of Richard Vincent to the Pinehurst Historic Preservation Commission for an additional 2-year term effective August 8th, 2023, and expiring July 31st, 2025.
That's a motion by Pat Pizzella. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Jeff Morgan. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Richard Vincent is reappointed. Next up, Jeff?
Okay, so the final one is a nomination to fill the open seat on our Planning and Zoning Board and Board of Adjustments. Over a period of several months, I think we interviewed 7 people for that position. And we're very fortunate to be able to nominate Tom Schroeder to fill that position. Tom has a lot of experience in this area. I know you all saw some of that background. At the time he lived up in upstate New York. It was very relevant, and then also served, I think, a full 6 years on the HPC, if I recall correctly. So brings a lot to the table for us, and so, as I said, we're pleased to nominate Tom to fill that Planning and Zoning and Board of Adjustments position.
Thank you, Jeff. Tom, and I know Jeremy Hooper could not be here tonight. Alex, would you wish to come forward, please, as the staff person for the Planning and Zoning Board? Thank you. Tom, welcome. I wanted to just confirm to the council members that you and I did talk yesterday. We had a good conversation about what I see some of the main challenges for planning and zoning coming to be, especially rewriting the PDO over the next year or two. And I think that your experience on the HPC, as Jeff said, including coming, I think, in the end of the completion of the HPC standards, will be a nice segue into working on the PDO update. And I'm sure Alex has a number of potential updates, maybe sooner than later. But the overall PDO update is going to be a major task. Alex, would you wish to comment on Tom's behalf?
Yes. So as Jeff said, Jeremy, and I interviewed a handful of candidates, and really this kind of all started maybe late last fall, is, we've been bringing new appointments and reappointments to you guys for your consideration as we have folks term out, not wish to be reappointed and such. And Tom was one of our earlier applicants when we interviewed, and I have a great familiarity of working with Tom as a member of the HPC for a full term of 6 years, as we just stated. And with Tom's background, we feel that he is a very strong candidate to really fill a need for the Board of Adjustment, as this is a combined board. So we did feel that that really did help separate Tom a little bit from some of the other folks that we interviewed, although there were several strong candidates within the pool, so we were very fortunate for that. And although, again, as Jeremy's not here, he also, very much supports Tom's appointment to Planning and Zoning Board and Board of Adjustment. And Tom also has some familiarity with his time in the Navy, with looking at some detailed plans. So as we get some general concept plans before us for Planning and Zoning Board, if his appointment is approved by Village Council, we'll definitely lean on his expertise a little bit to review those plans in heavy detail with us.
Are you anticipating we're going to get some battleship or submarine boats? I wasn't anticipating that, but
I don't recall seeing that on the use table.
a little landlocked.
I would be shocked if they showed up.
We were in Wilmington, I could see that, but not here in the middle of the state. Other questions for Tom? And then maybe Tom will have some questions back to us. Anybody else have some thoughts or questions for Tom?
I'd just like to make a comment.
Yep.
And here's a little jest on the Navy side. I know you've had a tremendous career after the Navy. But I do want to bring out that Tom is a decorated sailor from the U.S. Navy, served 23 years in the submarine fleet, involved in the nuclear propulsion program, basically running the nuclear reactors on submarines, and was on the front lines of the Cold War for many years. So thank you for your service to that, and thank you for bringing that to our village.
Tom, as I mentioned earlier, you and I covered a great deal of ground yesterday, but are there other questions you might have for the council or looking ahead to the work of the planning board going forward these next 2 or 3 years?
No, I have none, or any particular comments. I think I've talked to everybody that sits up there multiple times, except for yours, probably was the one I've least talked to, and we worked on that just the other day.
All right. Are there any other questions then for Tom Schroeder?
Not a question, but I have a comment. As I look at these names here, we've got Kelly, we have Tom, we have Paul Sale, and we have Tom Schroeder. There's a common thread here, and it is selfless service to this community. And I wish we had more like you. So thank you for just tirelessly, all of you, for serving your community.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Is there a motion?
I
then?
move to approve Resolution 23-41, appointment of Thomas Schroeder to the Pinehurst Planning and Zoning Board and Board of Adjustment for a 2-year term effective August 8th, 2023, and expiring July 31st, 2025.
That's a motion by Pat Pizzella.
Second.
A second by Lydia Bosch. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries. Tom, congratulations. Alex, congratulations to you. We'll move into item number 8. And Jeff, you're going to talk about the advisory board appointment process policy, right?
Everybody recalls that I presented a very rough draft of this new policy statement to you at your last work session and got some good feedback from you. Also had some edits that Lydia had provided to me right before that meeting that I didn't have an opportunity to get worked into that one before you saw it. I have updated this policy based on the conversation that we had and also based on the recommendations that Lydia made. I think I got it all. Most notably, there was really a bunch of grammatical points of things that could be improved, but also calling attention to the idea that for board chairs and reappointments, the 2-week interview period would not apply. Otherwise, it's the same as what you saw during the work session. So if this meets with your approval, there's an opportunity for you to adopt this new policy by resolution.
Jeff, I was looking back to the notes from the last couple of meetings when we discussed this, and I know we're trying to keep this policy pretty straightforward, but a couple points came to my mind. First of all, in the past and current through today, the village clerk does maintain a list of people who have applied to all of our volunteer boards, but particularly for the Board of Adjustment Planning Board and the Historic Commission. So we have a list of candidates, and the clerk does maintain that. And the file, I think, shows that a candidate's been interviewed or not, or the date of the application, this sort of thing, so we have some historic information as needed. So that's just happening. That's nothing we need to add to the policy, I think, but just so we all understand that. And then when the interviews are finished and the recommendation is made, we'll have two groups of 2 council members, if they wish, meet with the selected candidate, and they can go over any questions, ideas, background information that might not have been supplied. But is it the intention for your memo to the council to contain some background information that either is on the application of the candidate or meets to enhance that? Is that's still your intention?
It is, and I think you've seen that play out a couple times over the last week or so, as we've been working with the intent of this
Yes.
policy that had not yet been adopted. But yes, certainly, you should expect to see from me some information and details about the background and other factors that we as a nominating committee considered when we made, or why we made the nomination.
Right, right. And in that process of the council, the list of other people who have filed is available to the council members if they choose to do so, but the focus is on the candidate who's been selected, nominated. Okay. That's just some housekeeping stuff I wanted to make sure was understood in the policy. Are there other questions? And Jeff, particularly since Jane Hogeman and you had been working on this starting a month ago, is this consistent with your thoughts and Jane's as far as you recall?
Yes, we were still in the process of working through things.
Yes.
And I don't want to speak for Jane on there, but I know that this was a 80% solution that we had from there, and we have brought that across the finish line as a group.
Good. Yes. Other questions on the policy or other ideas or changes that need to be recommended?
I think this is a significant step forward in including the council members earlier in the process than it existed before. So I compliment all those involved, particularly Dr. Morgan and Jane in her absence. Thank you.
And just to respond on that, I concur with you, Pat, and that it's a step forward. And that was probably the key theme that Jane and I were working with, is how do we get involvement with the council members earlier, yet still also provide the staff with support and moving forward with their role to select people.
Exactly. Okay, are there any other questions? Any other thoughts from you, Jeff? All right, I think we have a motion.
I move to approve Resolution 23-40, establishing an advisory board appointment policy.
That's a motion by Lydia Bosch. Is there a second?
Second.
A second by Pat Pizzella. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Jeff, thanks for your work on that. Thanks to all of us for getting this process together.
All right, thank you, John, and I'll make the next introduction from right here.
That's fine.
Mike comes up, we have an opportunity for you to consider a resurfacing contract specifically for the downtown resurfacing that we have planned, hopefully for this fall.
Yeah.
And Mike will talk you through that, but our recommendation is for you to approve a contract with Turner Asphalt.
Hello, Mike.
Hello,
So we have a contract to consider,
we do.
a very aggressive contract from a pricing point of view.
Correct. So I've got a PowerPoint
that I'm pulling up. I typically don't provide, have PowerPoint presentations when we talk about road resurfacing, but in this case, this is a bit of a unique project. And also, we actually had a meeting last week, August 1st, with several of the downtown business owners that we coordinated through Katrin Franklin, and we did a PowerPoint for that. So this is just sort of a revisiting of that information. And there's some maps in here that kind of show you what we'd like to do. Originally brought this project concept to you back in June, kind of as part of an update on the downtown amenity plan. And, you know, normally we'll put out one road resurfacing package every year and have one contractor. And we have a process where we select the roads that I'll talk about here in a minute. But in this case, our downtown roads are kind of up for resurfacing. We have a need to resurface those, and we felt like this was such a specialized project, and we had some time constraints of when we wanted to get this done, that we put this out for bid simply by itself. So we called it the FY24 Downtown Street Resurfacing and Improvement Project, and I just want to give you a little bit of background on that. I can flip it here? Okay. So I know you've probably heard this before, but we do a pavement condition survey every 3 years. We hire an independent consultant who comes in and actually rates every single road that we have, every block of road that we have, and assigns it a score. They assign it a pavement condition rating, or what we call a PCR, from 0 to 100. 0 being in very poor shape, 100 being brand new. And then we have a committee, Jeff Sanborn, Jeff Batten, myself, Megan Skellerup, and David Johnson, who's our engineering technician. We review those scores every year and select roads to resurface. The average rating that we have had during our most recent pavement condition survey was 83. So that just kind of gives you a feel for where, that would be an average road. And this year, as we started looking through that, Chinquapin Road from Magnolia to Cherokee is actually rated as a 57. And it's one of our lowest rated roads within the village right now. And we started looking at other village roads downtown, Market Square, Cherokee Road, and Village Green West, that all have ratings that are below our average. And it's been some time since they've been resurfaced. So what we've put together is a resurfacing package for downtown. Of course, this is the, oops, can I go back? You know, Village Green is in this area. The roads that we have included on it are Village Green West, coming up on the west side of the chapel into downtown. We've got Market Square. We have Chinquapin Road from Magnolia up to Cherokee. We have a section of Cherokee Road that goes into downtown, and we actually would like to push that up Everett just a tad because of some improvements we need there. And then we had this like little triangle area here on Dogwood that we felt like to connect it all would need to be resurfaced. I will say most of these roads in this area, they rated in the high 50s and into the 60s. I think Village Green West is a 70 or a 72. However, I think it's important, if we're going to do this work here, that we do Village Green West as well. NCDOT is actually planning to resurface, I guess it used to be called NC2, and now I think they refer to it as old NC2.
Pick a word. There's several names.
From the main traffic circle
Yeah.
all the way to Highway 5. I attended a pre-construction meeting for that last week. They're going to start that work. It's night work, so it's going to be going on from 8 p.m. to 7 a.m., probably starting next Sunday,
Really?
August the 20th. So it's coming up pretty soon. They anticipate that being done in a week, though. They think it's 1 week of work overnight, like I said, 8 p.m. to 7 a.m. Was the schedule that they presented in that meeting. I would hate to do all of these here and not do Village Green West, which is one of our main gateways into downtown while we're there. And if you look at it, even though it scores as a 70, I think it really could stand to be upgraded. So this is the package that we have put together.
Mike, before you go on there,
Yeah, go ahead.
I'll just ask this question now.
Sure.
Especially with your comment about DOT. The lone road out here is Village Green East. Is there a reason, other than trying not to create, we're trying to not create a lot of disjointed activity for downtown. Is there a reason we're not doing that?
Yeah, it was done. We have a map that that actually shows what years roads have been resurfaced. It was resurfaced in 2013, so 10 years ago. I think it's rated in the 80s, and it's in okay shape. So it just, based on the quality and the fact that it was resurfaced 10 years ago, I don't think it's gotten to the end of its useful life yet.
Okay.
The scope of work that we talked with the contractor about is milling out 1.5 inches of existing asphalt. In some cases, when we do resurfacing projects, we'll just go in and we'll patch the bad areas, and we'll actually just put another layer on top of it. I am concerned about doing that in many areas downtown, this being one of them in front of Nico here. We've only got about 1.5 inches to 2 inches of curb line left. So if we come in here and just resurface this and go now, over top of it, all of a sudden our asphalt's going to be at the same elevation as our sidewalks, and that can create all kinds of drainage issues and other problems. So what we would like to do is go in and mill out 1.5 inches of asphalt. We would patch some select areas if they're really busted up after we do that, and then we would resurface back with 1.5 inches of brand new asphalt. And then we would have to go in and reestablish the pavement markings downtown, and there are quite a bit of them: parking lot stripe or parking space striping, directional arrows, things like that. So a couple areas I think we probably need to upgrade the striping. They're not quite in accordance with our standards, but for the most part, we would reestablish the existing striping that is there.
Hey, Mike, we had talked about putting in more golf cart parking downtown. Is that still a consideration when we do these pavement markings?
It is, yes.
Let me follow up on Lydia's question. How does this dovetail with the stormwater management discussion we had, the four-way stop there at Magnolia, the additional spots on Half Moon and so forth? How is that working?
Correct. So the intersection improvements there at Magnolia and Chinquapin is a separate project. We would stop short of that. In fact, we had a meeting on that earlier today. So we would stop short of that, and then that project would be a separate project, probably to be done later this year or first part of 2024. Okay. Same with the storm drainage project. We're looking at running a line down Magnolia, which is outside of this area. So we do not want to go in and put in a bunch of asphalt that we then have to tear up later. So there may be some right there near that intersection of Magnolia and Chinquapin that we would put in, and then saw cut to redo the intersection. But for the most part, we are staying out of those areas and trying to phase that in as a later project.
Those items, we'll be getting to them. It's a question of whether it's early
Correct.
next year or later in this year.
Correct.
So my notes had said that earlier it was going to be sort of Labor Day to November.
Correct. I'll get into that here in just a minute.
You will. Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Now, the Half Moon, with Half Moon, you're talking about there at the theater building. Is that the area you were talking about there? Yeah. I would like to do that as part of this project. We're actually getting that area surveyed. I don't have the survey back yet, just to verify what's in our right-of-way and what is not. I'm hoping to have that back in the next couple of weeks, and we could potentially include that in with this work as well. That's our hope, at least.
Mike, let me go back and ask a question about something you just said. The work from the traffic circle to Highway 5, you said that begins August the 20th?
That is what they told us.
How are
yes.
our residents going to find out about that?
Well, we are going to put some notifications out on that as well. It is night work. It is 8 p.m. to 7 a.m., so the
Maybe
majority of
even
it
more
is
reason to let them know.
Yeah.
Miss
But
Bumgarner to the rescue.
Miss Bumgarner will put something out. We
Kristen?
will have Kristen Bunton put some stuff out. I don't think DOT puts a whole lot of notifications for something like that out. I did notify the resort of it already because it includes that traffic circle right there at Carolina Vista, so they are aware. And the schedule that we got from DOT was preliminary, so we will confirm that that's what they want to do, but we will go through our normal channels as far as notification to our residents through social media and other measures.
All right, thanks.
So we bid this project out. We opened 4 bids on July the 20th, And our low bidder was Turner Asphalt out of Raleigh. Their bid amount was $305,553. I believe I included the bid tabulation in the info that you had. Bids ranged from $305 to I think $750,000. We had a pretty wide range of bids. I was a little concerned about this at first, I'll be honest with you. Turner submitted a really competitive bid. They have not done work for the Village of Pinehurst in the past. And so a low bid with somebody we were not familiar with was a little concerning to me. I have followed up with them. We met with them, made sure they were aware of our expectations on the project. And we checked several references for them. We've reached out to the town of Southern Pines, who they do a lot of work for. We've reached out to the town of Holly Springs. We reached out to the town of Fuquay-Varina. We reached out to the town of Archdale. 4 different reference checks. All of them said they do very high quality work. And so I feel a lot better. I think I put in an email earlier that I'm cautiously optimistic about this contractor. Just because we don't know them, but they have gotten very high regards from the references that we checked as well. They are planning to do work in downtown Southern Pines. They are resurfacing West New York Avenue beginning in early September. They plan to start that project the day after Labor Day, which I think is September the 5th, and they intend to be there for 2 weeks. And then if all goes well, they would send that crew, who has 16 years of experience, by the way, I should say that. The crew that we are getting is what they consider their A crew. It has 16 years of experience. They would propose to come to Pinehurst after a couple weeks and start our project here.
So the A crew has 16 years of experience, or Turner Asphalt has 16?
A crew has just, I think Turner's been in existence longer than that.
Oh, okay.
Because
So,
the project manager we've actually been dealing with has like 22 years of experience.
oh, okay. That's comforting.
So just putting together a tentative schedule and, weather permitting, if we choose to proceed with this. Of course, today's August 8th. We're presenting the bid results to Village Council. They're going to start work in Southern Pines September the 5th. They said 2 weeks. I kind of pushed that back, put an extra week in there for any kind of weather delays or anything like that. We would potentially start sometime around September the 25th. They are anticipating 6 to 7 days of work here to mill pavement out and put asphalt back, and then there'd have to be the striping work after that. But we would hope to be done with pretty much everything by October the 6th. So yes, that window we had before, it was more a broad window of when can we do this from Labor Day to Veterans Day. But our contractor, based on their schedule, we've kind of carved out a 2-week window here from September 25th to October the 6th. Now, I will say, we met with several downtown business owners, and they asked, why can't we do this work in January and February during their slow period? And I get that. January and February is not the time to do this work, in my opinion. Contractor doesn't want to do it then. We don't even know if they can get asphalt in. We might work for a day and then have to take a week off until the weather gets better. So, we do have the potential for weather here in September, October, but this is a much better timeline to do the work than January and February would be. I will also say that I had put in the request, I guess, to award this contract to give Jeff the authority to execute change orders if we go over. This in the downtown area, I know there's going to be stuff that we find that we were not anticipating. I asked for 25% of the bid amount there. That is kind of high. I get that, but we might run into something where we need some additional funds to correct. The other thing that I would note on that schedule, September 25th to October 6th, is you have a council meeting September the 26th, and if we run into something on September the 27th and need some additional funds, I would prefer not to wait until your next meeting on October the 10th to resolve that and have downtown be torn up at that point. So I would ask, I think it was 25%, which was another 70,000, or it may have been a little bit more than that. But that was the request, the reason for that request. Our budget for road resurfacing this year is $1.5 million. So we have plenty of money to do this project, and we intend to put out another project after this to resurface some roads in neighborhoods. Just two of the main things we discussed with some of the business owners downtown are road and lane closures. That's just a necessary part of this, but the contractor, as of right now, would only plan to close one-way streets, and that's really only Market Square and then Cherokee, the Port of Cherokee, right by the roast, part of Cherokee by the roast office would need to be closed. The other roads are going to have lane closures, but flaggers would be there to get traffic in and out of the area, and we have told the contractor sidewalks need to remain open at all times. We will put our message boards downtown. We have two big message boards. We will put those downtown ahead of that to let people know of the schedule, and we've already discussed with Catherine trying to get a lot of communications to her so she can pass that information along to those downtown as well.
Mike, another thing about downtown businesses, how are we communicating with businesses that are not members of Pinehurst Business Partners? Because I think there are a significant number of them. So how are we communicating with them, and how do we intend to communicate with them?
Thus far, we have not. I've done everything through Catherine. If there is a way we need to do that, I'm certainly willing to listen there.
Well, we have, that's a good point, and we very much need to reach out to that group of businesses. Now,
We will.
we have a list
Yeah, I
that I
prepared
think
one.
actually it may have been provided by business partners that Jeff Batten and I had a few months ago, I think. I have it at home, I know.
Yeah, Catherine said she had two lists.
Yeah.
One was the business partners and one without. So I'm kind of relying on her a little bit to get to those. But if there are other lists that we need to send that out to, we certainly can do
Now,
that.
and that raises the point, Mike, at the meeting on October 1st, it was expected, I think, that some of the landlords would be coming to the meeting. Now, did that occur or not? Because it's that group we should be reaching out to as well, and maybe in duplication anyway, the landlords, because
Sure.
they can help notify the tenants and go from there.
Yeah, sure. We can.
Okay.
I think everything's on the table for notification down
All
there.
right, so we need to,
Yeah.
we'll have a plan for that. Okay. I'll help
Communication
provide some
with-
information on that.
Yeah, communication with them is very high priority, obviously, because this is going to impact them pretty significantly. But we would like to get in and out of there, obviously, as quickly as
Sure.
possible, which is why we're looking at doing it this time of year.
Yeah, and my preference would be to communicate directly with every business down there. And we do have a list. So whether it's flyers, I think even a flyer is more effective than a letter.
We have a little bit of time before it's going to start, but not a lot, so I agree. The only other thing I'll say, just, with parking downtown, I know parking is a concern, and as we mill areas up, particularly on the on-street parking on the roads, parking, we're going to have to reduce the number of parking stalls a little bit. So some areas are going to have to be coned off ahead of time because we don't want people parking in those spots and then us come in that day and start trying to mill pavement up and we've got cars in there. So there'll have to be some coordination on that as well. So we're going to put our message boards out to alert people on it, and then we will do our best to communicate with as many businesses downtown as we can.
And thank you for the picture of the department store building, because that reminds me the owner of that building is planning on paving that parking lot.
Correct.
Does he know our schedule?
He does.
Okay.
He has been communicated with on this. In fact, he may move the resurfacing of that parking lot up in his schedule. I would really like for him to do that first, so we don't pave the roads around it, and then his heavy equipment tears up our roads to
Is
pave
Hudson doing
that.
that
So
one? Is Hudson Paving doing that one?
They are.
Okay.
That and the parking lot in front of the theater building. They are planning to do both of those.
It'll be both of those, hopefully at the same time.
Are they
ahead of
milling?
us.
Do you know if they're going to mill?
I believe they are,
Hope
yes.
so.
That's all I have as far as the presentation goes. So if you have any other questions, certainly let me know. It's going to be a challenging project, but I feel that we have a good contractor. I feel that we have an experienced crew. we will be looking over this. We're not just going to turn them loose in downtown without some oversight, and we are cautiously optimistic for a successful project.
Mike, when we first started talking about this back in June, and in some of your comments tonight, you talk about the sort of staging that we hope to have. Could we review that just a little more detail? Would it be the case that street by street, all the grinding down is going to be done at one time, correct?
They are actually not going to do it that way.
Okay.
What they said they would do is grind it down. So let's take Market Square, for example. Grind it down, come right in behind it and resurface it, which I think is
Okay.
the better way to do it.
I was wondering, yeah.
Kind of go street by street with it, finish one street and then move on to the next. I do not have their schedule, kind of the order that they would do that, but they were planning to go on a street by street basis and grind it down and then resurface right behind it. And in most cases, what they said, that would be done in the same day.
Okay. And how long would it be until we could reopen that street, even before striping, for traffic and parking?
I would hope the following day, but
Depending on the weather, of course.
depending on the weather, yeah, I mean, I would hope we'd be only down for a day. Like Market Square, for example, would be
Yeah.
down for one day. And I will say this as well, and this kind of goes back to the change order stuff. We've talked to them about potentially doing that work on Sunday, and because most of those businesses are not, on Market Square, are not open on Sunday.
Right.
They are supposed to be checking on whether or not they could get asphalt on a Sunday, and typically the plants are closed and will open. Of course, it's going to, for a fee, and so they're supposed to be getting us that pricing. So that would be an option as well, but I don't have that pricing in hand yet.
Now, we've talked a lot about Market Square, but that's not necessarily where they're going to start. They could start.
Correct.
Yeah, they'll determine that when the team shows up and the equipment is there, they'll say, we're going here or there or in the middle.
That is correct.
And just a second back. It seems to me we have an opportunity here with parking, especially for the landlords and shop owners, to encourage them, which we've been trying to do anyway, to use our public lot behind the theater building, down by the Pinecrest, and certainly the sand lot. Maybe to actually designate some parking in those areas for Market Square shops, Cherokee Road shops, Chinkopin shops. Let's cogitate on that post-meeting, but that might be a way to help make sure that people know where they can go, the landlords and shopkeepers, but also will tell us, what kind of parking we've got for our residents and visitors who are coming to town trying to find a space during that time frame.
I'm hoping we don't have too much parking down at one time, but there will be times, like I said, when we do Market Square and when we're doing, Chinkopin, because you've got parking on both sides of the road
Yes.
there where it is going to be reduced.
Yeah. Well, this might be a time to encourage some of the parking behavior we've been trying to put in place over time. Let's see what might work on that, especially since they're kind of doing a street here, a street there, a street here. It's a little bit different than grinding everything down at one time and having a bit of chaos on 3 or 4 different spots.
Correct.
All right. Any other questions for Mike?
Yeah. Will anything change on Market Square post the completion of all this, as far as the parking? We had discussions about whether we're going to do some golf cart parking, whether we're going to do diagonal, parallel. Remind me what will happen, or will it all be the same when we're done?
I may need Jeff Batten to chime in on that, but I don't think we were adding any golf cart parking on Market Square, or are we doing that? Were we doing that
We're
in
a couple
front of?
things up in the air there, but
Dugan's,
Jeff,
yeah.
And while he's coming up, I'll just say I appreciate your efforts at the intersection of Chinkopin and Magnolia, which is going to affect, as Pat was talking, that whole stormwater and intersection stop sign issue. To get that done, even if it has to be postponed a while, correctly, will be great. Jeff, Batten.
If you'll recall, we did look at some options for golf cart parking. There was one parallel parking space on Market Square, the first one, kind of right by the corner store, where we had considered putting in like a three cart, angled cart parking in there. That was one location. There was other
Okay.
locations but on Market Square, I think that was the only one that we were using one parallel parking space to create 3 golf cart parking spaces.
For the first spot that's there, right there at the corner.
And that space was going to be where? We had some options on that, either in front of the corner store or on the other side of, behind the bank, the old bank building, Agora. Where was that going to be?
We were looking at using the parallel parking spaces, because we could only, if we use one parallel parking spaces, we can get 3 golf cart
Right.
parking spaces. So the angled parking, we don't gain that much by using the angled, taking up angled parking spaces, like
I
we
see it's
would
parallel.
using the
Right.
parallel.
Right.
We would,
But the parallel space was where, Jeff? Down at the,
the one on Market
only a
Square
place
was up
building
by.
or by
By
corner?
Dugan's, right? By Dugan's in the corner
It
store?
was basically the first parking space when you come off of Dogwood on your
That's what I
right,
thought.
right by the corner
Right,
store.
right.
And
It
we
would
kind of
help.
picked that one because
Yeah.
corner store is kind of like a convenience store.
Yep.
And zipping in and zipping out.
Yep.
You know, whether people would use it that way or not, I don't know, but that was.
Makes
that was
sense to
part
me.
of
Pat?
And anything else further down that road or not?
I don't recall any more
Not
down.
specific golf, but I mean, there was some talk of whether it should be diagonal or parallel at one point.
We decided to leave everything diagonal, on.
the right?
On the right and parallel where it is parallel on the left, and then in other places it's angled right behind the Agora building.
Thanks, I was just
Because
trying
we
to,
did not ultimately you decided you did not want to lose any parking space.
I was just trying to refresh my memory. Thank you.
Other questions for Jeff or Mike?
No, just a comment, and this brings to mind that massive construction project called the USGA campus. And you remember as we were looking at that, and we were so concerned about all the disruption that would be caused? And it hasn't been. And I think it's because of the communication that was done in advance with the residents, so if we can communicate with all of our businesses. But also, it seems that they made themselves available somehow if there were concerns along the way. So maybe in the communications with the business, just give them your phone number or something, so if something comes up. But, you know, we had so many concerns about how that would disrupt our lives, and I don't think it's been as disruptive as we thought it would be because of advanced preparation and whatever we've done along the way.
And I think, yes, and especially with the heavy truck traffic, there were a few problems at the start, but those vehicles have been managed about as well as one could in the early days especially, but even continuing on into finishing plans now. But you're right, communication on that, both with our residents and with the contractors, is extraordinarily important. And given the tight situation in town, which they'll have to work through, that'll be even more challenging, but I'm sure we're all up to that. Make it work right. Other questions? Jeff, Morgan?
Not a question, just a comment. Mike, you and your team did a bang-up job here. We approached this before, and we're concerned about having to resurface roads next year, and we put a high timeline on you and said, need to move it forward. And I know you've had a lot of other things on your plate, and you've come together with a great presentation. I'm confident what you presented here that we're going to be able to do this and do this correctly, have a proper communication plan, and execute this. The roads have to be resurfaced. They need to be resurfaced earlier versus later, and we threw you a curveball and you knocked it out of the park. Thank you.
Thank you.
So unless it changes, September 25th to October 6th is the window.
That is the current window. If that changes, we will be communicating that as well.
Right. And since we only have one regular meeting this month today, I think we'll invite you back to see us on September 12th, I think it is, and make sure everything's up to date at that point, and
Happy
any
to do
changes
so.
be well known. But in the meantime, as Jeff Morgan has said, it's obviously you got it all covered, Mike. Thanks. Jeff Batten, thank you very much. Yeah. Okay. Good report.
Would you like a motion?
Actually, thank you.
I move to approve the mayor or his designee to enter into a contract with Turner Asphalt in the amount of $305,553 and authorize the village manager to execute change orders up to 25% of the bid amount, up to a total of $381,941.
That's a motion by Lydia Bosch. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Pat Pizzella. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries. Mike, thank you very much.
Thank you.
See you in September. That'll lead us on to item number 10. Jeff?
Thank you, John. The last item of business we have prepared for you is a discussion on the litigation committee. Of course, you all know that about this time last year, you appointed a litigation committee among yourselves that consisted of Jeff, Jane, John, and Patrick. Of course, Jane is passed, and there has been some discussion about the appropriate membership of that committee in relation to the campaign season we're in right now. So we want to take this opportunity to get a clear, to reset your designation of what is the litigation committee, or who otherwise would have the authority to make litigation-related decisions, so that the village will be prepared to make those decisions in the future with regard to the Kevin Drum lawsuit that's ongoing.
I see Mike Newman here. Mike, thank you for being here. Do you want to make comments on that or advise us in any way?
Jeff has covered it. That's sort of what we're here tonight about, to try to get some direction from the council as to.
Okay. From my point of view, or kind of where we stand, we had a committee of 4 that was agreed back in the time. And if Jane were still with us, she would be part of that committee with me, because there had been some concern, I think, or some thoughts between Jeff and Pat as to how they wanted to approach their membership in the litigation committee going forward. So that, I think, becomes whatever comments we need to make would be related to that. My anticipation will be I would continue on the committee with whomever, and would welcome that discussion now. Does that kind of help, Jeff, or Jeff Morgan?
Yeah, to give more insight to anyone who's questioning this, I recused myself from the committee approximately 2 months ago, 3 months ago. And basically what that was I had announced to run for mayor, and then Kevin Drum later on announced that he was running. And I felt that I would be conflicted if I were part of a committee deciding what was going on if this went back to court. And so I recused myself back then. My feelings haven't changed on that, but we're in a quandary right now. And did you recuse yourself, Patrick? I was off the committee. I wouldn't know if you did or not.
I intend to.
Okay.
I mean, I have the same.
So
view.
you haven't yet at this point in time, but you intend to.
I have the same view. My recollection is that you had, but at that time, I had not announced until more recently. So
I understand.
So
You
now
announced
I would
after.
have the same position as you have.
Yes. So this is a question. I go back to the lawyers and I ask some of what our options are, because everyone that is talking about being on this litigation committee effectively has conflicts. You have a situation where Mr. Drum is bringing a case against the village in something that John was part of. Obviously, Jane was part of that, and Ms. Davis was part of that. But so that gives a conflict there. You have myself, who is running for mayor, and you have Mr. Pizzella, who is running for mayor, along with Mr. Drum, creating another conflict. So everybody's conflicted. Yet we have to make a decision for the village, and we have a responsibility to do the right thing for the village. Ms. Bosch was also involved in this before and recused herself right from the start because of her conflicts. So coming back to you, Mike, what are our options here?
You have the authorities, and it basically is a committee that the village appoints. So if the majority of you appoint people, whether it's 3, 2, 1, could be the village manager, it could be a myriad of options that you vote on. Hopefully, majority vote obviously would be required to basically reconstitute the membership in the litigation committee. Because right now, as we understand it to be, we're down to 1. And so theoretically, if a majority of the council is comfortable with one, then the majority of council can vote for that. If the majority of council says, well, we'd like to have the village manager also be on this committee, you could do that as well. You have a myriad of options, and then you also have the option of, with Jane's passing, and as difficult as it is to find members that are not conflicted out, a more difficult personal decision as to whether the recusal is necessary. This is not a situation, I want to make sure this council is clear on this. This is not the kind of committee or the kind of decisions that require members to vote. That's a separate thing as opposed to what a litigation committee has been appointed by a majority. There's no recusal prohibition, is my point. So when Jeff Morgan announced for mayor and thought it was in his best interest to recuse himself, that's absolutely appropriate. It's his decision. Same goes with Pat. The same went with Lydia when she had originally had recused herself from participating. So it's not the kind of thing that you can get into trouble because you've recused yourself. Or you're not voting it because you just want not to have anything involved in it. This is a committee that the council appoints. So back to the point and hopefully answer your question. It could be one person, it could be two people, it could be the three of you, it could be whatever you decide it to be. We just need to have somebody with the majority of council saying this entity has the authority to give direction and have the attorneys report to this entity for decision-making processes during the litigation process.
Okay. To follow on to your answer there, I'm hearing a variety of things in there. You say there's a myriad of different things we can go. I don't like a committee of one, from Jeff Morgan's
We
perspective.
assume that you would not like that, so that's why we're here tonight.
I don't like having people that are compromised anyway to be making a decision. Basically, if they should recuse themselves, they should be recusing themselves. And when I recused myself, it was not just in Jeff Morgan's self-interest, it was the right thing to do.
Sure.
And it gives a balanced approach as we move the village forward. So I don't like the options that have been given in the sense of a committee of one or a committee of two with the village manager and with the mayor on here. I don't think the village manager should be involved in that. I think that there is a conflict because of his involvement in the different things that occurred also. And so I feel he is conflicted. And I'm not saying when I say conflicted, I don't mean anything in a pejorative way to anybody. I just mean that you're involved
We
in
all
it.
could be we four could be fact witnesses. And that's a question I have for you, Mike. If we take these two out, the rest of us could be fact witnesses if this goes to trial. I'm not sure you can be a fact witness, go through depositions, go through everything that goes along with the trial, and give unbiased advice to the Village of Pinehurst.
Is the question, well, let me just start it this way. First of all, I don't want to make any comments about this particular litigation, but broadly speaking, anytime someone is a party to a lawsuit, they are potentially a witness. And anytime you can subpoena any witness you want. So if I were to sue Jeff Morgan, and I would say, Jeff Morgan, you have to recuse yourself from your defense because I'm going to call you as a witness. That's not the law. He's always able to testify. So there's not any issue with that. The real issue is everything has changed since this committee was appointed. And as Jeff said, these options, none of them are ideal. They're just not. There are no ideal options. But someone has to be in the position in a committee that is able to give direction and be able to, attorney-client relationship, you have to have a client to speak to. And so we're stuck with what we're stuck with. I think all of us, the council being very, very bright understands that sometimes you don't have great options in front of you. This is one of those times in my
Mike,
view.
is,
I don't feel any more conflicted, to use Jeff's word and not in a pejorative sense, as Jeff Morgan said. I don't feel any different today than I did 6 months or a year ago as far as being on that committee. I mean, nothing has changed for me. So if we need to have a committee, and I think we do, I'm willing and willing to serve and expecting to serve in that sense. I imagine if Jane was with us, maybe that committee of two would have sufficed. But that would have been up for us to discuss tonight as well.
Mike,
So the question becomes, how can we find another person? I'm not uncomfortable with the village manager being part of that. I know you've expressed your concern about that, Jeff, and I understand that too, but I'm thinking of other parts of village staff or, I don't know, someone from your office, Mike, I don't know, that could be part of that.
I believe it
No.
has to be someone from the village.
Yeah.
I can't have
Is-
anybody from.
Okay,
Can-
Pat,
is it-
I'm sorry, Lydia, go ahead.
is there an attorney in the village of Pinehurst who could look at this objectively? And, you know, John, I have to disagree with you only because I probably know the facts of this case better than just about anybody. And if anybody involved in the facts of this case, I'm not sure can give objective, unbiased advice. I would be more comfortable if it was somebody who wasn't involved in it at all.
Well, I've been on the litigation committee since it started, and when we've met, I think I've been quite unbiased and helpful in doing and making decisions for the committee going forward on behalf of the village, so.
That's just my opinion.
yeah, I think based on the options that Mike ran through, it strikes me as we have to pick the least bad one of all the options we have.
Or come up with another option.
Or come up with another option, but I'm not enthralled with finding some lawyer elsewhere in town to interject themselves all of a sudden, or to find someone else we pluck from the air. So I don't, of the ones you laid out, to me, the least objectionable is the committee of one. But
Let's go back.
I'm open to another idea, but of the ones I heard, that's it.
And just so I'm clear, I'm not saying that's an exhaustive list of options.
Well, if there's another
Those
one-
are the options that came to my mind, and in discussing it with Jeff, we weren't able to really,
And just for record, Jeff Sanborn.
I'm sorry, it's
Yes.
Jeff Sanborn, that we weren't able to come up with any other options that made any sense.
So my suggestion of some attorney in town who is familiar with the village and is familiar with litigation, to me, we've got three choices: try to get Supreme Court, go through a trial, or do mediation. Those are three choices, right?
I want to make sure I'm clear. I'm not here to comment on options in the pending suit or anything involving the pending suit. All I'm here for tonight is to make sure that the litigation committee understands that, and the former folks on the litigation committee understand that things have changed since its original formation. And right now, it's down to one.
Understand.
So,
And
original recusal of Lydia was for a reason. So I don't know that she has a role to play in your decision today.
well, and the options I'm seeing right now are a committee of one or a committee of three, where we come back into it, even though we might recuse myself, and Pat has indicated he's intending to. Or come up with some new ideas. Now, we've also got some lawyers that have been involved in this that we have hired. And typically in my background, when I'm not getting an answer, which I think is a decent answer, that we've maybe got an exhaustive thought process on this, is let's go back to the drawing board. Let's ask some questions and say, what other options do we have? I don't know. Okay, I'm not the lawyer here. But I would like to see if there are some other options. I do not think a committee of one is in the best interest of our village.
And
It's not how we do it.
I wasn't promoting that. That's precisely why we're here. We didn't think that that would be something that would be acceptable to the council, which is why we're here. To the extent we're talking about other lawyers, Hartsogs, I've already spoken with them about that. They have not been able to identify any other ideas because they too report to the litigation committee, other than the ideas that I have already discussed. So this isn't something that Jeff Sanborn and I bat around. I've already spoken with the Hartsogs and about this issue. And they're aware of Jane's passing, they're aware of all the recusals, and they are aware that we're down to one.
Okay. I would like, even if we're making a decision tonight on what the litigation committee is, I would still like to be able to beat this down a little bit more and see if there are other options. Because what's being offered right now on having a committee of one versus potentially a committee of two, which I do not want Mr. Sanborn involved, not just because I think there's his participation in part of the case in here, what's going on. It's not his job, okay? That's our job to take the lightning rods, not him, okay? I would prefer the three of us to be on this, understanding that we are conflicted in this regard because we are running for mayor, and we just have to avoid this in any way possible in dealing with anything on the campaign. I don't know another solution out there other than if you come up with a different process that we can manage this, if we can have someone else that's coming in. Because I do think that both myself and Mr. Pizzello are conflicted on this, not heavily, but it gives a bad impression. Okay?
If we were able to identify another citizen in Pinehurst, not necessarily a.
Or a couple,
Yes.
okay?
That's not-
And that a reason, we have a variety of different committees. We just approved a series of different committees that are folks to committees that are technically part of the village. Is there someone we can go to in that? I mean, that goes through my head. Sitting right in the background over here, we have a man who served for 12 years as a judge. Sorry, Tom, I know you're probably running out the door saying, no way. But my point is, we have people that are in our village that do have some talents and abilities to be, in my opinion, impartial as to what's going on. And are those opportunities?
Might I
Please.
interject on that one? I try to fast forward to what might happen on a suggestion like that. I don't think you all want to put yourselves in a position where people who are not employees or elected members of village government are making litigation decisions for village government, because there will be people that criticize the results. And they will criticize you for off-ramping the responsibility to people that aren't invested in the village.
Well, one solution that comes back to my mind and is, I think the three of us should operate as the litigation committee. Understanding, as I think you just said, Jeff Morgan, that there may be perceived some conflict, but that's maybe, as Pat's saying, the lesser of evils. And we are the elected officials. As Jeff Sanborn has said, that's an important consideration in who makes up the committee from the public's point of view, I think. So maybe it remains the three of us.
Well, I think we also ought to factor in that in 90 days, the three of us will be down to two of us. So, you know.
We're going to have this conversation again.
Yeah, we need to play chess here rather than checkers as to how we're going to work this out.
We'll also have a bigger pool to draw from.
Yes.
But in the meantime, there are things that are the retained attorneys for the village need to, I imagine, need to present or need some direction on. So I don't think we can continue to wait. I think we need to confirm who's on this committee and get it done fast.
Yeah,
I don't think we have the luxury of waiting.
we don't want to be talking about options with regard to this specific lawsuit, but it might be helpful to say that at least one of the options that's on the table has got kind of a short fuse. Is that fair to say, Mike?
I think that would be fair to say.
Okay. When I first took this job and ran for it, I accepted the fact that no matter what's coming down the road, my responsibility is to do what's best for the village. And I do, as I mentioned before, see where there is some conflict. But in my past experience, the issue has been not so much of having conflict as how you manage conflict. And to be able to ensure that you're making decisions that are appropriate from whoever you're representing. And if you're concurring with us, Mr. Pizzella, on being part of this committee as it go forward, understanding that come November 7th, there'll be some changes, and that we will reshuffle as necessary for that. But I'm willing to do that and give every assurance that I will be as absolutely impartial in everything that I'm trying to do and make sure I'm representing the village and its best interests throughout.
I'll accept that proposal.
Okay.
I have no problem with that either, and not of any other mind, and we'll all be doing what we think is right for the village of Pinehurst on the facts as they're presented.
Absolutely.
The
This will
three
be
of us will
for
remain,
Pinehurst.
the three of us will comprise the litigation committee going forward, at least till post-election, and then there'll be another opportunity to reform that committee because it'll be necessary.
Mike, I
Okay.
have one more question. Could you please remind me why I can't be on the litigation committee?
Used yourself.
Because based on advice you gave us, and I can't, you've got somebody on the committee who's a named defendant and a witness, but I'm not a party to the litigation. I'm not a plaintiff.
Are you asking me why you chose to recuse yourself?
You had an explanation for why I should have recused myself, and I don't recall. I'm wondering why I can't be on the litigation committee, and you said because I recused myself. I don't recall the reason that I am not on this committee, and I'm just trying to get some clarification.
The reason you gave us was because you were supporting the lawsuit against the village by Kevin Drum.
I don't recall saying that. I was not a party to the litigation. I did not join in that litigation.
I understand that, but you were supporting it, and you told us that you were supporting it,
Okay.
and that you did not feel that you could serve on a role in a litigation committee since you were essentially on
Okay,
this.
yeah, I don't recall that. Okay.
That's my recollection of
That
the
is,
basis that you recused yourself.
that's my recollection too.
Okay. Your memory's
that
better than
stands.
mine.
I think that stands. And the litigation committee is Mr. Pizzella, Mr. Morgan, and myself going forward.
We failed to prepare a motion for you.
I think there
but
needs to be a vote on
Probably
this.
would be helpful if one of you could kind of just pull together a motion designating the three of you as the litigation committee going forward.
Okay. I make a motion that the litigation going forward at this point in time is the Mayor John Strickland, the Mayor Pro Tem Patrick Pizzella, and Jeff Morgan.
I second.
That's a motion by Jeff Morgan, second by Pat Pizzella. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None? Motion carries. Thank you all very much.
Yeah.
Jeff Sanborn, you had a comment?
Before we now move on to other topics, and I mentioned that one of these options has kind of a short fuse. Are the three of you available anytime this week?
Either in person or by Zoom, could be. Yes, I am.
Depends on the meeting. How about in about an hour and a half?
When it's,
We can't make notice requirements there. We need 24 hours.
Evenings and weekend.
Okay?
This week?
we could do as early as
Evenings and
roughly
weekend for
6
me.
PM tomorrow night onward, 24-hour notice. Right,
Do it quickly.
Pat?
No, she can't get the notice out in time for that. So
Okay.
Thursday night?
Thursday night works.
It'll have to work.
No?
Let me check.
Yeah.
I could also do it the 11th.
There's daytime.
Sorry?
I could do Thursday, actually, no earlier than 17:30, 5:30.
Okay.
No earlier than.
Tentatively, we can say 5:30 and we can work on this tomorrow, I guess, to
Want to make it 6, Doctor, just to give you more wiggle room?
6?
No, we'll make it 5:30 and I'll just push it.
And, and we're talking,
Gives me a reason to end a meeting.
and we're talking PM, not AM, right, Jeff
That
Morgan?
is correct. Actually, 5:30 a.m., now I'm in the operating room, that would not work, so
All right.
I'll be on the road by then.
So Jeff Sanborn, you got a notice out tomorrow.
Yep.
We'll meet 5:30 on Thursday, the 10th of August, 2023, and we'll meet at Village Hall in the council conference room.
And is this all face-to-face meeting?
Sorry?
All face-to-face meeting, is there capability of doing
They
a?
have Zoom in.
I'll be there.
Yeah.
We may have to have, I haven't checked with the Hartsogs
Yeah.
yet, but I'm positive one of them
Please set
will
up
be
a
able to.
Zoom connection in the event I'm held back late for any reason, okay?
Yep.
Okay. Mike, thank you very much.
Oh.
I'll move on to item number 11, which is other business. Is there any other regular meeting business from the council members?
Hold on a second, I don't know if this is appropriate here or the work session, but you all can tell me. Is there an update on the Jeff Batten on the property issue and public services discussions and all? And we can talk about it later. I just didn't want to let it slip. I scribbled it down and,
I think we're still waiting on either a stormwater delineation or survey, right? Survey.
waiting on a survey. Okay, thank you.
All right. Any other,
have one
any other,
question.
other business?
Yes, please.
Lydia?
Morganton Road realignment, you'd said the next thing, we're waiting on 2 drawings from DOT. Have we gotten those yet?
Nothing yet.
Do we know anything about the timing? Nothing?
They didn't give us an indication on when we could expect that
Okay, okay,
feedback back.
thanks.
Any other business? Moving on into comments from attendees. Is there a list of individuals who wish to speak? There are none. Is anyone here who does wish to speak who didn't sign up yet? Seeing none, is there a motion to adjourn the regular meeting and move to the work session, please?
I move to adjourn the regular meeting.
That's motion by Lydia Bosch, second by Pat Pizzella, to adjourn the regular meeting and move to the work session. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries, and we'll move to a work session at 6:10. We'll take a quick break.